Welcome everyone, A Guy Trying here, and today I've got a new deck guide for you. Woru started out dominating the competitive scene of Altered, with Sigismar at the ready to take the throne after the errata of Robin Hood. With the might of Ordis bearing down on the rest of the factions, one hero was often left behind though. Gulrang's defensive forces, while powerful, were often unable to withstand the swift tide of the tumult and show competitive viability. However, both Trial by Frost and Whispers from the Maze added crucial pieces to assist her game plan, slowly chiseling her a place in the meta. So, let's get into it. Deck building in Altered is different from other games, so I won't be giving you an exact 39 cards to put together. 3 cards in your deck will be uniques which only you will be able to build around. Instead, I will tell you what I believe are the must-have cards in the deck, constructing the core, and then some options to fill out the rest of the 39. But let's start with the hero. Gulrang and Tocsin are an Ordis hero that gives every token they create a boost, causing most token generating cards to become highly above rate. But if they have less than 8 mana orbs, their boosted tokens have Defender. Defender is a negative keyword that stops the character's expedition from advancing, so even though we are creating stronger tokens, we won't be able to use them to push for the first 5 turns of the game. This previously has made it hard for Gulrang, causing her to rely on cards that remove Defender like Sinisa and Rare Mobile Armory to keep up in tempo. However, we'll be removing these and hoping instead to make our opponents match our slower tempo instead of matching their faster one. This is all because of the latest addition to Gulrang decks and the centerpiece of the stall strategy, Rare Mesektet. On play and at noon, this landmark will create an Ordis recruit in each of your expeditions that is tied or behind, allowing us to potentially create massive value throughout the game. Even though we are hoping to play from behind most of the game, we'll have to thread the needle to not get aggroed out before we get our footing. But if we're able to set up a Mesektet or two, we can turn into an absolute menace for the rest of the game. Our main strategy for this deck is to run our opponent out of resources while accruing card advantage for ourselves to overrun the late game. To do this, we need a lot of card draw, and that's where Field Reinforcements and Ordis Attorney come in. Both are essentially 2 mana 2/2/2s that draw a card. I'd prioritize Field Reinforcements over Attorney more often than not, because the draw is more consistent overall. But Field Reinforcements does lose a lot of value if you ever get ahead of your opponents in an expedition. While we won't be using Rare Mobile Armory, the common is still a strong inclusion in the deck, alongside the new Aegis Templar. They can both offer a 1 mana recruit when you need it, with Mobile Armory offering another use once you advance later on, and Aegis Templar bringing some versatility from Scout. Conscription is another great addition to Gulrang's package from Whispers, with either rarity allowing it to hit some crazy stats under the right circumstances, and only needing to create 1 recruit to be at rate. Obviously, Rare Conscription is just straight up better than the common, but we can easily run out of rare slots. If you ever find yourself not maxed out on rares, this is an easy upgrade. And Common License Withdrawal is some of the best removal in the game currently, so there's almost no reason not to run it in any Ordis deck for the foreseeable future. The fact that there is no hand cost restriction, coupled with many decks' reliance on boosting or permanence, means that there's almost always a good target for license withdrawal. And that will be our core. But let's take a look at some of the great options to fill out the rest of our deck. All of the following cards can have a space in the deck, but it'll be up to meta, playstyle, and your uniques to figure out what's the best combination to add. Again, our main strategy is amassing overwhelming advantage throughout the game, so cards like Conjuring Seal and Ordis Carrier can help us with that. They give similar benefits to other cards already in our core, and while I would say they are slightly worse than their counterparts, they are still easily vying for the spots in our 39. Our main strength comes from our token generation, and cards like Overseer, Paper Herald, and Staff Clerk will give us easy access to more of that. Overseer wants to be played from behind, although we are most likely going to be in that position anyways. Paper Herald can be a cheap after you, but we'll be hoping to use its support ability to create a recruit most of the time. And Staff Clerk can get incredible value in certain situations, but is reliant on your opponent to play into her ability. She can still easily stall tempo or force your opponent to overcommit cards from their hands and have to discard excess cards from their reserve. If you're looking for other non-character options, Bugout Bag, Bug Fix, and Open the Gates are some strong contenders. Bugout Bag is an upgrade on Mobile Armory, but the rare slot can make it hard to fit in, although it does also give you a resupply from reserve. Bug Fix can take a boost from any of your tokens to create a boosted Brass Bug. There are some situations where you can even remove a boost from a recruit in an expedition the opponent isn't combating, causing that token to lose Defender while still creating a 3/3/3 to defend the other. And Rare Open the Gates gives us flexible stats to distribute throughout the board, but can often be too costly to fit perfectly in the deck. Ordis has a huge number of other token generators that you could add to the deck, but I think they are often outshone by our current inclusions. If you are missing some of the recommended cards, many of these could easily slot in as replacements until you have them. On the other end of card advantage, instead of gaining our own, we can focus on reducing our opponent's value. One of the best ways to do that in Altered is with Sabotage, with cards like Ordis Spy and Monolith Legate. Ordis Spy is generic Sabotage, while Legate comes from not advancing, which in the early game are Tokens Defender will ensure. If you upgrade to the rare Legate, you'll also have the option to discard them from your reserve for a free Break in Case of Emergency recruit. We'll also want to include some removal like Teamwork Training or Tiny Jail to help us stop any pressure targeting our early game weakness. Teamwork Training can more easily brick in Gulrang compared to Sigismar because you don't have a guaranteed token each turn, but can also hit a wider range. Tiny Jail is mainly to target early game characters, and the rare is an easy upgrade if you're worried about losing tempo in the first few turns. And last, we have a bit of a spicy inclusion, Rune's Testament. Some decks will attempt to throw an expedition or put Gulrang in an awkward spot where she has to commit to a lane without much knowledge. Rune's Testament can give us a small safety net from taking an advancement too early, giving us card draw and potentially making Attorney or Legate active. You won't want to use it against more aggressive decks, but it can help in very specific matchups. Which brings us to uniques. We're not looking for anything too specific for Gulrang compared to other Ordis heroes, we're mainly hoping for token generation and card draw. For specific cards, Atlas with additional effects can be a fun target, as most will also give your tokens gigantic. For my uniques, I have a Monolith Runescribe, Korgan Informant, and Ordis Dispatcher that can each make 2 recruits on arrow in the right circumstances. All have conditions to have their generation online, but a token, having my expedition behind, and to counter and play are all often easy enough to pull off. And with that, here's my current deck list. Currently, the card that often feels worst to play for me is the common Ordis carrier, because I'd always prefer to have my Mesektets. But unfortunately, you can't always draw them early, and even if you do get one, there are a lot of players who will attempt to remove them on sight. When playing the deck, you'll want to focus on minimizing how much your opponent advances in the early game while you're setting up. They are most likely going to advance because you won't have the resources to defend both expeditions, but try to force them to advance evenly on both sides instead of just speeding along in one. Once you're online, focus pushing expeditions that are furthest behind and slowly inch forward. And don't be afraid about going to the arena if it comes to it, because all expeditions are considered tied there, so you can still get max value off of most of your cards. When playing against Stall Gulrang, feel free to use the early turns to create your own value. Ramp, draw cards, or set up your own permanents, because Gulrang will most likely be unable to advance, and if she does, it can put her in an awkward spot. If needed, prioritize advancing only one expedition path. Cards that remove stockpiled card advantage like the Hunger or Loki can drastically affect Gulrang, leaving her struggling to rebuild. And of course, save whatever removal you can to take down her Mesektets, as it is the main enabler of the stall strategy. And there you have it. This should have hopefully given you a good foundation to build your unique Gulrang list. There should be 3 alter.gg deck links in the description to help you after the video. The first is a list of the Gulrang Stall core, so you can duplicate that to start your own deck building process. The second is my deck list with my uniques removed so that you can just replace them with your own if you want. And last is the full deck list so you can check it out for yourself. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you found this helpful in some way. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. But if you made it this far, just know that I'm happy you stayed with me this long. I'm working on a number of videos, and I'm not getting them out at the pace that I would want, but I am still working on them. One of the main things I am looking to make in the future is a primer and intro to Altered's 2v2 format, which I think is amazing and should get more notice in the community. But until then, let me know what you're enjoying in the Whisper season so far, and if you're planning on competing in any of the upcoming Worlds qualifiers. I'll be at Gen Con at the end of the month, so if you're there, feel free to say hi. I'd love to meet more of the community. That's all for now, but I hope we see each other again.